Napoleon Bonaparte is portrayed to be a lover of food, and in particular for lamb chops, although this was what we saw in the Ridley Scott movie a few years ago. However, in reality, well, at least told by historians at least, is that Napoleon had very little time for food, often finishing rather somewhat simple and unremarkable meals within as little as 15 minutes before getting on with his day job of figuring out new ways to annoy the British in various parts of the world. That being said, his nephew, Napoleon III, to have a somewhat higher profile relationship with food, or at least that's what a certain Auguste Charles Edward Kettner from Germany would have asserted. Kettner claimed to be the former personal chef of Napoleon III and has opened up a restaurant in 1867 here in London SOHO, perhaps making this one of London's oldest surviving eateries, and as well as perhaps the first restaurant in London that served French cuisine, surpassing that of L'Escargot, which is just around the corner. And I don't quite understand why influencers and self-proclaimed expert YouTube food reviewers haven't covered this place. Kettner's history is rather noteworthy, and I'll cover a little bit more in detail later on. And in fact, Oscar Wilde used to dine here, so if it's good enough for Oscar Wilde, then it's good enough for us mere mortals. So I shall see you all inside by the table.
Vous avez des yeux, vous avez des mains, vous avez du bleu.
It's all in the little details that gives you that extra sense of luxury, I'd say. Of course, the obligatory linen napkin there, which I'll drape over shortly. Because the building has been Grade 2 listed and it survived I believe a 20-year stint as a Pizza Express at one point, it still retained much of its significant original features. I believe there is a rather stunning looking bar, sort of like a scalloped design to it, which I hope to get on camera. Yeah, very, very good, very impressive. Kettner's with a capital K. Let's flip the menu over. Okay, my little customary scan through. I've already pre-selected what I want in my head to save time, to stop faffing around. The menu, right off the bat, is French influenced, but adapted to British, or dare I say, the international palate. It's not going to be, I believe I've been told that it's based off the original menu, which would have been far more rich in butter and cream. I'll overlay one of the older menus that I managed to dig up. I believe would have been from the Victorian era to compare. But can you imagine me trying to order something from the original menu? I wonder how they react to that. Anyway, I'm waffling. So, usual crowd pleasers here. And then go to the mains. Rabbit on the menu, Dover sole, chicken and girolles. That's a treat if you like your mushrooms with bourguignon. Yeah, lots of classic French dishes, but adapted for modern tastes, I would imagine. Oh, of course, my Bordeaux has landed as well. Looking forward to sipping. A quick whistle-stop tour of the wine list, of course, as this is a French cuisine-themed restaurant. Wine is very important staple, I'd even say. Impressive array of champagne options there, and quite generous amounts by the glass as well, so that's very tempting. Be quite spot for choice here. Okay, a quick little nose test and taste test of the Bordeaux. It's Merlot, dominantly, or I believe, or completely Merlot, so let's give it a little sniff. Yeah, usual spicy, fruity, nothing standing out, so it's perfectly one of those drinkable wines, so I'll give it a taste. Of course, on behalf of Kettner's, cheers, cheers. Very smooth on the palate. Some tannins in there, just enough to, not too much, not too prickly. Rather conveniently close to the window, so I get a little bit of people watching entertainment going on. I'm just sitting opposite the Coach and Horses pub, and a rather charming patisserie there. Oh, very French. Could do far worse. Dining off the old school, of course. You've got a little side of bread and butter to kick off proceedings with. I'll just get everything all set up and ready. Yeah, perfect amount of bread for just one person. I love the way how they embossed some logo pattern into the butter. I hope it's soft enough to spread. Oh yeah, perfect. And as someone once said, if it's not seasoned to the max, it's not seasoned enough. And the first course has landed. Of course, it is a Saint Messelin cheese souffle. You can't rock up to a French restaurant and not have souffle, can you? My spoon here gets the first bite of this lovely, delectable looking souffle. Here we go. So the waitress informed me it's very hot, so be careful. And she was correct, but very, very rich, very creamy. Taste the savouriness of the cheese and the lovely counter balance of the chives. Yeah, just what you want from a cheese souffle. Yeah, very comforting. You're going to have to excuse me. It's a little bit of a vlogger's worst nightmare at the moment. The lighting's rather dim, it's loud, so I'm going to use a bit of noise cancelling to try and tidy the audio up. But the food's good. That's a good start, and I'm starting to grow into the restaurants, if that's the right term. I've had a few bites of the souffle. Yeah, very savoury, lots of umami, that addictiveness. Yeah, certainly delivers. So I'll take my sweet time eating this, I think. I've had cheese souffles in previous vlogs, comparing that to Wilton's and the original Ivy in Soho as well. I would rank this maybe number 2 out of the 3, with Wilton still leading the pack, I'd say. If I was reviewing food, that is, I would certainly put them in that order. I must admit the service is a little bit disjointed at the moment. I did read a few reviews before I arrived here, and I can echo those sentiments. But I would say it's a rather pleasant place to be if you're not in a hurry to be anywhere else. I waffled about the interior decor. I had a bit more time to process everything that's going on. Kettner certainly doubled down on the floral detailing, especially on the dado wall paneling and the rose patterns on top of the ceilings. Yeah, it's very, very romanticised, I'd say. Walked through the restaurant, through the foyer, and it's not been modernised, as in they just stripped it all out and replaced it with modern, shiny trinkets and furnishings. It's still they retained all the most of the original features, being it is a Grade 2 listed building. So, and I like that. Just restore it to its former glory, and let the charm and the history of the place speak for itself. Certainly enjoying this one. I've just noticed they also put some actual linen napkins underneath the souffle as well, so extra linen goodness there. There's my main napkin there, but yeah, normally most restaurants will just be content with just putting a bit of paper serviette, but yeah, real old school napkin here. Yeah, nice, very, very nice touch. 19th century lore tells us that Kettner's did not get off with a flying start when it first opened in the 1860s. My take is the issue is twofold. Firstly, Soho wasn't really a place you would boast about visiting, let alone dining at. And secondly, French and Anglo relations back then were rather sensitive, especially when the French emperor at the time happened to be the nephew of Napoleon I, and we all know what Brits thought about him. Auguste Kettner and his dear wife, Bob Maria Theresa, both continued to run Kettner's and kept the wheels turning for around a decade, and that was until a newspaper article published by the Times newspaper with a food review highly praising the cuisine of Kettner and, alas, opening the floodgates to forthcoming success and popularity. Unfortunately, Auguste Kettner did not live long enough to see the success of his restaurant, as he sadly passed away 2 years prior to when the Times article was published. His widow married again 2 years on in 1880 to a Giovanni Sangioni from Haringey, and together they ran Kettner's throughout their golden era until they both passed away by the early 1900s. Don't you just love it when food lands when you return to your table? And look at that, another lovely touch there. They've folded my napkin in a triangle. They've ketchup and mayonnaise. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, shame to be wasting the sauce though. But as you can see, I've gone for the steak frites, as we are in a French cuisine restaurant after all. A bit béarnaise sauce to go along with that, and a side of peas and cabbage to lighten things up and balance it out a bit. Medium rare as specified. Get a little close shot of another piece of this steak just to show you the colour. Good flavour, very well seasoned. I don't need to add any additional salt and pepper, so the chef has got this spot on. We're not on camera, but there is a table of 10 diners literally a couple of feet away from me. I think it's a birthday celebration of some sort, but yeah, lovely group of people just having a good celebration, a very good time, and I believe they're just getting a little group photo done at the moment. So yeah, it's all going on in here at the moment. I just realised, I'm not going to, without trying to moan too much, we don't think it's a good idea to put steak on top of your chips, as you need a stable base to hold the meat underneath it. It's just kind of sliding around everywhere. So yeah, got to be very careful. Anyway, I should just roll with it. Good char on the steak, I mean. Hits all the right notes for a steak, just what you want. With steak and frites is you're never going to get the top cuts of beef. It's just going to be something a little bit more affordable, more casual. Fills a hole, but hopefully it does a little more than that. There certainly is lots of going on to keep the palate busy, so that's all that matters really. So. The wine that is goes even better with the steak. Complements each other very well. Classic combination. So the fries are, dare I say it, the frozen variety. It doesn't seem like something they would have hand cut and made in-house. But as I said, it's supposed to be one of those casual dishes. Don't overthink it. Still, I think they could have done something a little bit more in-house, given the location and the prestige of the area. I just realised I just sounded like a food reviewer. I need to nip that by the knackers, I think. Peas, shall I give that a go next? A little bit of cabbage also. That's very good. The cabbage goes well with the peas. There's just a lovely light flavours to counterbalance the steak and all the, of course, the fries as well, or the frites even. I'm going to dip this into the béarnaise sauce just to give it a little taste without committing to having too much of the sauce. I prefer steak without anything on it. If it's good steak, it will just taste good on its own. Rich and creamy. When I mentioned the original menu way back in the early 1900s, French cuisine was certainly very, very decadent. They don't hold back on butter or cream or seasoning. So modern menus you see everywhere dotted around London and the UK, everything's watered down slightly just to fit modern tastes and expectations, and of course those who are very health conscious will want a little bit of less butter, less fat, less salt. So it's good to still have some elements of the dining of the old school, as I keep saying. It certainly feels like you've had a treat when you're eating out. I am pretty full, but as usual I will have a look at the menu, of the dessert menu that is, to see if I can make some room. If there's anything exceptional that sticks out and it's worth giving a go. I've been recommended the poached pear or the freshly baked madeleines. It looks lovely, but I just don't have the room at the moment. The steak is certainly very filling, especially with the extra portion of fries or frites as it comes with. Just notice the cheese, the fromage. One of the cheeses is the same cheese they use for the lovely cheese souffle. So yeah, if you like your cheese course, then yeah, that would be a good choice. My apologies, viewers. I've really tried to find some room for a pudding. I was actually tempted for the poached pear, but just didn't want to just waste the food for sake of a little bit of extra content. But anyway, I've compromised a little bit. I've gone for a champagne martini. So it's a classic dry martini, but instead of your vermouth, you replace it with a bit of champagne. So all good. Vodka as well, and some liqueur, and a lovely twist of orange as well. Normally you put lemon, but orange actually goes extremely well. You knew Kettner truly made it when you had the heir to the English throne frequently visiting the place with his mistress. Alas, just as with rules in Covent Garden, the Prince of Wales convinced the proprietor of the time to outfit the restaurant with some secret form of entrance and exit between the restaurant and where the Prince and his thespian mistress wanted to be. And in this case, in Kettner's townhouse, or as it was known then, would have been the basement all the way to the Palace Theatre, which is somewhat 300 yards away in Shaftesbury Avenue. I mentioned earlier that Kettner claimed to be the former personal chef of Napoleon III, although I couldn't really find any credible sources to confirm that. But I don't think it's done much to dent the popularity and the appeal of Kettner's back in the day. Former Prime Ministers such as Winston Churchill and Maggie Thatcher, who both bought into the legend and have known to have dined at Kettner's more than once. At least it makes a very good conversational piece. And if you ever heard of the 80s girl pop band Bananarama, well, their hit single Robert De Niro Was Waiting impressed the aforementioned New York actor so much that when he was shooting a film in London back in 1984, he extended an invitation out to Bananarama to meet him for a drink at Kettner's. He arrived later on that evening by knocking on one of the windows outside, giving the band members of Bananarama a rather surprise and a shock while they were inside waiting for him. And the shout-outs continue. You have the likes of Agatha Christie, Bing Crosby, and of course the wild one, Oscar Wilde, are all known to have dined here for their fix of French cuisine in the London area. Okay, I've been here for quite a while now, so I'm overlapping into dinner service now, so hence why they brought out the candles and lit it all up. Yeah, it's certainly boosted the ambiance somewhat.
Et vous avez tort, je ne veux pas de vous, 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 pas de vous.
Cigarettes, my dear? Don't mind if I do, my dear. Have a little bit of bar to smoke it through. Ah, thank you very much. I thought your new play was great, by the way. There's only one thing that's better than having a great play, and that is having two great plays. Doesn't make any sense, Oscar. I know, none of us have invitation, though. Haha. Nice bit of bar, by the way. Thank you very much. And that was a not so accurate impersonation of the late great Rick Mayall doing a very accurate impersonation of Oscar Wilde. I don't know why I did all that. Perhaps I need to edit it all out. Well, that was the inside scoop of Kettner's, and I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a place indeed very historical and very noteworthy, in my own opinion at least. So it has had its fair share of popularity. It has also endured periods where it's not been so, and dare I say maybe even of the present day. While it may not have the hype and excitement surrounding the likes of Rules in Covent Garden, or maybe one of the new kids of the block such as Fallow, history tells us that Kettner's is very indeed resilient and may return and go straight up to the very top of the to-do list of many diners and tourists one day again soon. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that video. Maybe I'll make another one again soon. I do hope so. Anyway, have a pleasant rest of the weekend, and you all take care now, folks.